Yo, internet. Welcome back. What's happening? Surprise, surprise, we're doing F150 Coyote things, and a toddler's making noise. Let me get you up to speed on the little things I buttoned up and what we're going to do in this episode. Yeah, so if you're new or this is the first video of the swap you're watching, let me catch you up on what we've done. We're putting the first gen Coyote into this 08 F150. We pulled the box, pulled the cab, and have put the 6R80 and 14 Coyote in the frame rails. And pretty straightforward, minus a cross member and some PCM bracket stuff. And we still need to either use a Mustang oil filter adapter or use an oil filter relocation kit. And as per our last video, we did have a cross member design that's not going to work, so that's in the works. Get you caught up. So there, now you're up to speed. Let me tell you what we're going to do on this episode. All right, not a show-winning engine bay by any means, but I got emissions done and made a nice fresh line. The one that did just bolt in from the 5.4 was, every time I touched it, disintegrated. Arizona heat. Ran my brake booster line. I borrowed the 90-degree thing that was here, the double hose clamp there. Made a hose. And what else we got bolted in? I'll be working on the compressor. It's just sitting there right now and show you how that works. It should. And in this episode, we're also going to go over the jump that you have to do in there on every year truck. There's just no plug and play way about that because that connector, other side, does not exist in the aftermarket to acquire. Nowhere. Same thing with the 05 Mustangs. They use that inline connector on the engines. Also show that connection. There's only 2 wires in there you have to connect if you have a late 07 to 08. The 04 to early 07 trucks, you also have to borrow the wire that you loop and tee into the harness, or the wire that will be labeled in the harness. You can see we're pretty barren in wires. We got the body connector and the engine inline. Got to get the battery harness from the F150 truck in here. Radiator's got to go in. But before starting this episode, I was fooling around with the Airbox. This will not fit. This is from an 11 to 14 truck. And the only reason I got it was because I had a degas, and there's just no room. We got ABS things in the way, master cylinder in the way. Worst case, I'm probably gonna have to trim that degas off. Luckily I bought it used, and it came with the mass airflow sensor. I got it for like under $100, so well worth having to cut it up. Even if it doesn't work, I had a stock 15 to 17 Mustang intake, but the tube diameter's bigger than the first gen F150, so I didn't want to mess with that calibration. Trying to avoid a tune as possible just to see what pops up under a stock file. So yeah, there's some little things here that we got to button up. So far so good. And already have the one mistake fixed, or working on it fixed, from last episode. We'll go over that quick. I already made a new file for the cross member, and that should be done this following week. We're right after Thanksgiving now, so should be good there. You can kind of almost tell that there's a lot of space behind the firewall, and that'll come a little closer. There's a lot of room there. No room above the back of the transmission or on top of the transmission in the back. So yeah, let's degas thing. So I'm probably going to end up reusing the original one. It's sitting right there, except it only has one steam port. This has a port coming from the radiator of the Coyote, and this is the steam port from the engine. So I'm probably just going to tee into the steam port on this one, and the radiator return should work just fine. Well, just tried a Mustang oil filter adapter up in there. It would bolt out of the block, I'm fairly confident. No way you're getting a filter on. The rack and the power steering line is just all in the way. Because I live under a rock sometimes, I didn't realize they made a 90-degree or oil filter relocation, so that I just ordered one of those as a last-ditch effort to avoid going a full actual oil filter relocation kit. So I'm going to bolt that oil filter adapter on just enough to test it so that I can return it if it doesn't work, and go from there. So that part will be here on Saturday, or in a couple days from filming this, while I'll be drifting at Fuel Fest. So Yeah, no dice. I tried to line everything up. The power steering line low. So let's say this is like the engine block, and we're trying to basically bolt it on. It's more like this. Power steering line just is right interfering right here. And even with like a sandwich plate that locates it, there's just no room without like rethinking the lines, and I really don't want to do that. So an actual oil filter relocation kit will be the answer. You'll throw that on and then continue probably cutting up the airbox up a little bit and see if I can get that to fit. As you can see, there's a dead battery. Sweet. Let's lift that on. I got the airbox on. Well, the intake tube, which has the, like, worst case, just get it running and have this thing floating, but I'm definitely gonna have to trim the degas off of the airbox. So let's go. We're back from Fuel Fest the day after, so you missed out if you weren't there getting right along some Fusion, but literally the day before, the night before, got this little shift bracket on there and test fit it, and super promising. Let me show you it under the truck with the one that's already installed. All right, as you can tell, I got the Make It Modular now super revised shift cable bracket. Now that's the original shift cable bolted in, and transmission is in park. And it clips right in. And the other end of this cable is actually not in the column yet because I still haven't ripped out that one that got burnt through. But on the other end of the line is where it would be on the column. So right now we're in park. You can reverse, neutral, drive, and so forth. So super cool. I swear we'll get to the airbox stuff, but updated crossmember came in. Ooh. Couple less cuts in there to make it all flat and hopefully put that transmission where it needs to. But ever since I made the first one, I've been out of gas for the welder and haven't gotten this since, so that'll be in the next episode. So let's get to cutting the airbox and see what we can finagle. So I know it's never gonna mount with those points, so I'm gonna probably lop those off. Make it nice and flush in the ribs, and then cut just right along that seam. There are some ribs on the back side, so it's probably gonna look a little weird there, but you won't see that when it's in the truck. So we'll just cut down that channel and see if it just fits like that is. Not very hopeful. Probably gonna have to cut out some of the bottom here to clear the ABS stuff and whatnot. And yeah, it won't be as a cold air intake pulling from the fender, but at least it'll be an OEM type fix for the swap. Trimmed off, could be worse, could be better. Obviously, now that it's, I don't think it's too bad. Just sand a little bit, take off some of these rough spots, but let's see how it'll fit. All right, it's looking hopeful. Probably take off this little tab and probably a little bit of the bottom. Just looks like it's sitting high. But yeah, just as kind of expected, this little area down here, I'll have to take that little hump out of there to clear some of the harness and the cab itself. It does look like it's sitting on top of there a little bit. No, all right. So yeah, it'll come down a little bit once I chop like maybe a fifth off the bottom of that, which is still getting, you know, coldish air. So let's get that trimmed and see how it fits again. Boom, just like that. Got the exactly where I intended. We'll clean it up. But basically what it looks like. And one of these little nubbers fits real nice into one of those factory little half a snowman holes. Let's see if I can grab one of those from the oh my gosh, what am I doing? The 5.4 intake tube. And best part is hood closes. So now I'll just put the I'm gonna clean up, maybe throw some bleach or something in that bottle, clean it up, throw it back in there, and then figure out the plumbing. But yeah, 11 to 14 airbox. Fits pretty okay. There it is in its final position and form. The grommet, had to take the metal insert out of it, but that worked perfect. So by the time this is all, yeah, it's a little loose there, but this is also not tightened down, but it'll get better. And it's, yeah, I mean, once I figure out something else to tie it down with, I'll let you know, but for now that's what it's gonna be. So it's not too shabby. It's not gonna go anywhere anyway. So what's next? I'd say let's get the air conditioner compressor actually bolted to the block and see how that works. All right, just like that, you guys get to travel into the future where the compressor is now fully bolted in. Whatever belt when I bought the speed drive system was the correct length. It was a little dicey. I thought it was gonna be just a touch short, but it worked. And the best part is I didn't have to grind the bolts any shorter like I've had to on the 4.6 compressors on the Mustangs. Every single time. I brought that up to Power by the Hour, but one of the guys knows it's an issue, but I guess those bolts that they provide work on other modular compressors, but I reused the 5.4 compressor bolts that were on this compressor. And one hot tip, I'll tell you, putting this in, is the only bolt that you can put in the compressor when it's like in place is the far rear one. The other two, the one that's closest to on the top in the front, on the right of the screen here, has to go in basically while you're putting the compressor in, because you never get the bolt in when the compressor's in place because the frame's right there. And this one on your left here, you kind of have to at least, like, you can start that top bolt. Don't have that bolt there on the top of the screen on, and rotate the compressor just enough to squeeze it in past the rack. And then it all lines up nice, and you can see I got the belt on, like I said earlier. So that's a hot tip, because I put the compressor in place, forgot that. They decided to make them 14 miles long, of course, because it's just the nature of the thing, and you can't get them out with the frame there. So you got to put them in preemptively. How you do that is up to you, but I'm just gonna let you know that 2 out of 3 need to be put in before you put in the compressor. At least the front top one. And this back one, you can kind of rotate the compressor when it's not bolted in to get an F150 battery harness in. While there's no radiator in there, so I can manage to reach everything with minimal difficulty and see about that alternator connector that used to be over here. So that harness is probably going to have to be modified. Got most of the battery harness kind of ran through here. I did have to take this channel out of the harness to get it between the compressor and the block and whatnot. I will be putting that back on so that it clips nicely onto the oil pan and the wires are secure. Now, all that's left on here, and I also hooked up the AC compressor. That wire hooked up, so that's awesome. Side note, if you have a 04 to 06 compressor, there's a chance it might have a bigger 2-pin connector on there. You have to splice the pigtail from the Coyote harness AC compressor to, or vice versa, that pigtail onto the Coyote one. So here's an alternator harness. We don't have to like shorten anything. This is the only thing left on the harness is alternator hookup. So I kind of want to make this at least neat, because it obviously will reach without having to like de-lume anything, but you know, still want to make it look decent. Yeah, so we'll do that, and I think I'll throw the radiator right after a little medium work. We won't call it quite light work, but got the channel in there I was talking about. That's going to really help keep those wires away from both pulleys. Did drill a new hole, as you can see, in that transmission line bracket, and alternator wires routed kind of neatly. Perfect into the alternator. Now there is one ground wire. I had to repair this terminal because it broke off. I want to verify that this ground, because it does conveniently go to like a ground on the engine, but I want to see if it goes to the chassis itself or the engine, because there are a lot of other engine grounds And there's a big one by the starter that usually on Mustangs go to the motor mounts. So it'd be kind of redundant to have that go to the motor. I just want to verify that. So I'll verify that, and then the next step will be to drop the radiator in, I believe. The wiring book didn't really tell me anything except that this is a ground. I already knew that. Didn't have anything going to the chassis per se. There is already a ground going to the cab, which is, that's not it, this one here, which is a pretty substantial wire as well. That will go to that mounting point there. So yeah, it would be really redundant to go to the engine. So it's either, not sure, I have to do some thinking on that, but I'll let you know when I figure it out. Well, that didn't take long. I should have looked a little harder. There was a little bolt there near the control arm mount. It would have been a little more obvious if I had it right, like the ground with like the tab on it, like those, but makes perfect sense. That's a big thick ground going to the chassis, and whoever said that that crash tether in the back of the cab was a ground, definitely not. So now we got ground to the actual frame, and then phone doesn't want to focus. There we go. So yeah, battery cable is essentially in. So now a few things about this is that the 09 14 cabs, the battery's actually right here, but this harness still works in the older trucks. You notice we got a lot of connectors here. Here's our battery sense. I took the other battery's current sensor out because that goes straight to a BCM that doesn't exist in this truck. Got the inline here, battery harness inline, and our starter that we have to tie in no matter what. And I believe at one of the first clips I showed, I told you I was going to show you what we have to loop on that connector, but I'm probably going to save that for next time. So, and also with the radiator, because now I'm going to be gone for over a week, and then this video has been just like a whole bunch of little things here and there I've done over the past like week and a half. So I think I'm just going to cut it there because I made some good progress today. And I think next video we'll have the cross member and everything else that I said I was going to do today. So we'll do the loop there, get the PCM in there, and probably show you the harness. And maybe if we're really ambitious, because this thing isn't too far, because they do have the oil filter relocation kit that I showed you, or told about it anyway. And then this thing will be ready to fire up anyway, even if it doesn't have a drive shaft. So yeah, that's the project so far. Everything's going pretty well. I ain't gonna lie, that battery harness was a bit of a you-know-what to get in there. Especially with the trans lines going through there and the compressor. Probably in hindsight, I would have put the battery harness, especially that thick channel and stuff, in before the AC compressor. Is what it is, and there's a little stretch. Like I mean, it's not stretched, but it's in there good, and it'll all look OEM like. Hopefully, once it's arranged, and just not the harness and everything. And trucks, I don't know. It just doesn't look as clean as the Mustangs, but it is what it is. So I still need a high AC sensor for AC things. But also, big moment here. This channel has officially hit 10,000 subscribers as of filming this, and thanks guys. That's a huge milestone. I'm sure it's taken a few years to get this far. I haven't been anything that I'm not, or add a little fluff to my videos to make them any more interesting or anything. I'm just into Fords and Coyote swap. So thank you guys for all your support. And if you're new to the channel, you should probably subscribe as well, because I swear everybody's YouTube video, I swear their ratio to subscribers and who watches the video, there's non-subscribers more watching the video. So like this video, give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing. We will see you next time sooner than you think. Thanks.